At my brother's wedding. At my brother's wedding reception, the screen displayed. Infertile, divorce failure, high school dropout, low income, single. Laughter erupted. My brother grinned. "Don't laugh too much," he said. "He might cry." My mother sipped her wine. My father and my wife chuckled. "Just a joke, right?" she asked. I took out my phone. Begin. The room went silent. Chapter 1. Family Shame on Display. The ballroom was extravagantly decorated. Crystal chandeliers, champagne fountains, and a string quartet playing softly in the corner. My brother's wedding had spared no expense, funded by the family company I'd once helped build, but was later quietly pushed out of. I had shown up in a modest suit. No +1, no fanfare. I wasn't here to celebrate. I was here to be polite. At least, that was the plan. But then the projector screen lit up during the reception. I was sipping water when the text appeared. Infertile, divorced failure, high school dropout, low income, single. A beat of silence, then cruel laughter. I looked up. My brother, the groom, was smirking proudly. "Don't laugh too much," he said into the mic. "He might cry." My mother sipped her wine calmly, as if this was just another casual family dinner. My father chuckled, leaning over to whisper something to my wife. Yes, my wife, who was sitting beside him, laughing. She turned to me and said with a smirk, "Just a joke, right?" I didn't blink. I didn't flinch. Instead, I reached into my coat pocket, pulled out my phone, and quietly said, "Begin." The lights flickered, the laughter stopped, and the screen went black for a moment before a video began to play. Chapter 2. The Real Projection. The video opened with grainy, hidden camera footage, time-stamped and silent at first. A lavish hotel room appeared on the screen. At first, the crowd didn't know what they were looking at. Confusion replaced the laughter. Then, the faces became visible. First, my wife, laughing and undressing. Then, my brother. A gasp went through the room. There they were, entangled on the very bed they claimed was a setup. The crowd shifted uncomfortably. I glanced over at my father, who had turned pale. My mother dropped her wine glass, the shatter echoing through the stunned silence. The screen cut to another video, this time boardroom footage. My father and brother were scheming behind closed doors, discussing how they'd pressure me into signing over my remaining shares. "We'll call him infertile, broke, whatever hits hardest," my father had said. My brother had laughed. "Let him be humiliated. He's never fought back before." But I did, just not in the way they expected. Back in the ballroom, my wife stood up, her voice cracking. "Stop this. This isn't fair." I stepped forward calmly. "You called me a joke, but tonight the truth laughs back." I looked to the event staff. "Send the files." Within seconds, the same footage was emailed to every guest at the wedding, key investors in the family company, and the press. My brother clutched the podium in horror. "What did you do?" "I just told the truth," I said. "And unlike you, I have receipts." Then I turned to leave, not needing to say another word. The empire they tried to build on my ashes had just crumbled. Chapter 3. The Aftermath. By the time I stepped outside the banquet hall, the night air was thick with murmurs and disbelief. Phones were ringing. Messages were flooding in. Their perfect facade had shattered. Behind me, the once celebratory wedding reception had turned into chaos. Guests began to leave, muttering about scandal, betrayal, and unbelievable stupidity. I heard someone say, "He really destroyed them with just one video." But it wasn't just a video. It was years of patience, years of being humiliated, underestimated, and sidelined, condensed into one surgical strike of truth. The next morning, headlines were everywhere. Family business in crisis after shocking wedding revelation. CEO implicated in fraud and nepotism scheme. Shares plummet. Bride caught cheating with groom's brother before ceremony. The company's stock dropped 17% overnight. Investors began pulling out. Lawsuits were drafted, and a whistleblower investigation was launched, anonymously tipped off, of course. Who was the whistleblower? Me. My father tried calling me a dozen times. I never answered. My brother texted, "Please, we need to talk. Don't do this. It's gone too far." My ex-wife sent one message. "You ruined everything. I hope you're proud of yourself." I was. Because that wasn't even the end. That same day, I met with my attorney. The evidence I gathered didn't just expose infidelity and betrayal. It proved corporate embezzlement, insider trading, and a trail of tax evasion spanning over 7 years. My father always said, family comes first. So, I made sure the IRS would be first in line to pay them a visit. Chapter 4. The Final Blow. 3 days later, a convoy of black SUVs and government sedans pulled up outside the glass doors of my father's corporate headquarters. Agents from the IRS, SEC, and FBI entered the building with sealed warrants. It was all over the news. Massive financial crimes uncovered at prominent family corporation. CEO, board members under investigation after wedding video leak. Whistleblowers' evidence triggers federal raid. By noon, my father had been escorted out in handcuffs, shielding his face from the cameras. My brother, pale and shaking, was led away not long after. And my now ex-wife? She resigned in disgrace from her cushy marketing director role after it was discovered she had funneled company funds into a secret joint account with my brother. A month earlier, I had met with my grandfather's old attorney, the only person who ever saw past the mask my family wore in public. It turns out that before he died, my grandfather updated the family trust. He didn't trust my father or brother and had quietly named me as sole trustee, but only if I met specific conditions. They'll spit on you first, boy, he had warned in a private letter. But if you keep your dignity and stand your ground, the family legacy will be yours to protect and reshape. Well, I had kept my dignity. The morning after the raid, I walked into that same corporate boardroom, this time as the rightful owner of the controlling shares. Every board member rose when I entered. I looked around at their nervous faces and said calmly, effective immediately, this company will be restructured under ethical leadership. All those involved in fraud, nepotism, or misuse of power, you're out. Permanently. I then paused, looked toward the security team behind me, and pointed to 3 men seated in the corner, including the CFO who had laughed during my public shaming. Start with them. That evening, I sat on the rooftop of my new office. A quiet, warm breeze drifted through the city. No chaos, no yelling, no more begging for respect from people who saw me as disposable. Just peace and the knowledge that without raising my voice, I had taken back everything they tried to destroy and more. My phone buzzed. A message from my brother. You've won. What do you want from us now? I stared at the screen, smiled softly, and typed. Nothing. I already took it all. Epilogue. Legacy rewritten. 6 months later, the once glorious family mansion sat silent and foreclosed. The gardens were overgrown, the marble was cracked, and the gold-lettered family name plaque was ripped off the gates. My father was serving a 12-year sentence for tax fraud and embezzlement. My brother, barred from ever leading a public company again, was now working as an assistant in a small firm, ironically answering to someone half his age. And my ex-wife? She tried to sue for emotional distress. The court laughed her out. Now she works as a sales associate at a luxury store where she once shopped like royalty, wearing a fake smile and discount shoes. But me? I rebuilt the company, not just financially, but morally. I offered scholarships under my name and created job programs for veterans and underprivileged youth. I replaced corruption with compassion. At our annual charity gala, this time hosted by me, not in my brother's shadow, a reporter asked, "What would you say to those who once mocked you publicly?" I paused, looked at the cameras, and simply said, "Thank you. Without that humiliation, I wouldn't be here today." They gave me the fire I needed. Then I raised my glass toward the crowd and finished. To every failure they laughed at. To every quiet soul who's been underestimated. You don't need revenge through rage. Dignity and silence make the loudest noise. The audience applauded, and I felt something I'd never truly felt around my family. Pride. Not because I destroyed them, but because I became everything they said I'd never be, and more. Was this revenge perfectly justified? Tell us what you think about this story in the comments below. Like the story if you think this story is justified. Share it with someone who needs this energy. And subscribe to Lauren's Story for more jaw-dropping tales of betrayal and justice. Because here, every lie has its reckoning, and every betrayal finds its shadow. Stay sharp, stay strong, and stay tuned.